Oh shit. So par for the course, I drenched myself again, working on another DIY irrigation project. I think if given the choice, you should just hit up Home Drip Depot. You know, they've got a lot of stuff here on YouTube, and they have a pretty comprehensive website. They have all these kits, they have all the parts you need. I've just been limping together with parts I can pick up at Home Depot and Lowe's. I got really frustrated with the organizational side of it, so I went down to Harbor Freight and picked up a cheapo toolbox to organize all my parts, which actually makes it more enjoyable. I kind of enjoy all this, the process of the DIY irrigation and experimenting to see how far my water pressure will even go out here. I'll show you what I did today and how far it did go. But yeah, I mean, I think Drip Depot is probably as good as anybody. I think they're probably the way to go. I'm going to make my next order through Drip Depot, but I'll show you what I was able to accomplish once I get my stuff organized today. But basically, I took an existing drip line setup that was set up for like 5 or 6 plants, and I added 10 more raised pots to it, and it worked out fantastic. Going through this, I realized I had a lot of joints. I had a lot of goof plugs. Apparently, I anticipated making a lot of mistakes. What I did not have was a whole lot of the 2 gallon per hour emitters, which is by far my favorite for these types of pots. You'll get a vibe for your favorite sizes over time once you practice with them here and there a little bit. Now, I know it's not always practical, but if you can lay your hose out in the sun for a little bit first, it becomes a lot more malleable and a lot easier to bend and shape and even to compress when you're trying to puncture it or attach it to another piece. So again, take your wife's best scissors to make your ends, and I'm taking off what was a coupler and I'm gonna put on an end cap. See, this is gonna become the end of the water line now. It's a little bit tough to squeeze on, and that's why leaving it out in the heat and letting it warm up makes it a lot easier to put in there. I'm giving you kind of the view of what we've got going on. I showed you in another video how I ran all those lines there to the first 5 pots of tomatoes, tobacco, marigold, basil. I think I've got chives and lettuce going in there as well. And it's worked out really well for the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna put this joint in there to cross over and see if I can make a whole nother span of pots. And I wasn't confident that I would have enough water pressure to carry through to 10 different pots. But I just kind of figured, you know, what the heck, let's put this little T junction piece on there. We'll put it right in the middle of the existing line, put our new line on there, and I'll run it the stretch of the deck. It reaches just barely all the way down, which is lucky because it's an old piece. And let's see if I've got the water pressure to get it done. So here we go. As you can tell, this is lucky. I did not cut it this way. This was an extra piece. Every time I do these irrigation projects, I just coil it up and stick it somewhere and hold on to it. So I've got the end cap on it now. I'm at the very last row of 5 pots, and it just barely reaches. Now remember in the other video I showed you the little blue puncture tool. This thing is a piece of cake. You just jam it in there, poke a little hole, be careful not to go too far, add your emitter to your 1/4 inch tube, put on basically the little coupler joint after you've cut your 1/4 inch to size, and bam, you can pop it in. Now this part can get a little taxing on the fingers after a while, so I've used needle nose pliers to press it in there too. I've actually used a lighter before to heat up the tubing, make it really malleable, press it in there and let it cool, and it kind of melts around it, which works really well too. But right there, boom, you take your hose line, you got your 1/4 inch tube, you've got your emitter. You can take, I just forgot the name of this guy, but set this up, and then you can basically set up your emitter to be anywhere in the raised pot that you want. See, watch this. Now, of course, I don't want to stick it directly in the dirt. I want to give it a little bit of clearance. I want to see that it's dripping, and I don't want it to get clogged. So we're going to clean that up a little bit, just sweep away some of the dirt, but I want to show you kind of how it works. You can pull the emitter back closer too as well to have it elevated a little bit, but generally speaking, one done. So what I did is I went ahead and I knew I was doing 5 here. I cut my lengths in advance. I put my emitters on, I put my couplers on, and I got them all set up. So all I had to do then was go punch 5 holes really quick in the main hose and basically deploy them. The rest of this whole project was probably about a 30-minute project. I'm trying to condense this video even further, but it really did not take a lot of time. If I spend 30 minutes doing this right now for 10 new pots plus the 5 that I already had going, then every single morning they're on Bhyve timer, they get a little bit of watering, and I'll determine, you know, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 20 minutes down the road and based upon temperature and whether or not we're getting rain that week or that day. But I never have to think about it again. I come out, it's done. So if I know everything's getting watered when it needs to get watered, my wife and I just come out on Sundays and we do our Sunday fertilization routine that we do every week. So it's pretty easy. I like it. Like I said, it can be a little taxing on the fingers and the fingernails. But really, that's easily rectified. Just grab yourself some needle nose pliers when you're making the connections, and it's a piece of cake. So there's the T adapter that I showed you guys. I've run the line all the way down. I've got my 5 new lines in, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the water and give it a test. There we go. First test went great. I mean, I'm getting water on all 5 new emitters. This is in addition to the 5 emitters that I already had deployed. And that's where I'm starting to test my water pressure and test the ability of this thing. I just keep adding emitter to figure out how much water pressure I have and how many of these things I can do on a single line. Now, the Bhyve timer that I have has 4 zones on it. The more emitters that I can run on a single zone, the more money my Bhyve is worth to me, and I don't have to add more timers. So that's really the big game I'm playing here, because as soon as I go too far and I start pulling too much water, it becomes randomized to as which ones are not going to get any water at all, or if they're all going to have weak water flow. So I'm really testing the limits of what I can accomplish here with this Bhyve, the one zone, and all these emitters going into various different pots. To capture again what I've got so far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's tobacco and tomato. And then there's 3 more, but you don't see 1, 2, 3, 4 other tobacco plants that are planted in the ground as well. So was that 3, 4, 7 plus 5, so 12. I actually don't have 10. I now have 12 different pots. And just to show you the angle, the sun comes right over Mount Rainier and it sits there and beats on these plants all day long. So good irrigation is crucial. I also do need to come back and mulch these things as well, which I will get to. Now, I have 5 more pots that I have to do. I'm going to speed this up and not make this a 30-minute video, but basically I'm going to go through the exact same routine again. I'm going to pre-make all of my hoses, 1/4-inch line with the coupler, with the 2 gallon per hour emitters, and I'm just going to deploy all of them right now, and then we'll test it again. Here we are back to the Bhyve. Lots of settings. I can set how often, how long, and I've got this manual setting. So I'm going to go to zone 3, set it for just a couple of minutes so I can test it out, head back over and see what we've got going on so far with the new system. I probably did not need to include the walk back for you. I apologize. I just like the walk. Anyways, we're dripping just fine. So now we have added 5 more to our 7, 5, and 5. That puts a 17 emitters. They're all running 2 gallon per hour with the exception of one because I ran out of the 2 gallon per hour. So one of them is actually running 4 gallon per hour. I'll probably swap that out later when I go buy some more, or I'll just leave it and watch it. We'll see. But generally speaking, they're all getting a drip. It's not as much of a drip as I want at the very end, but it is a drip, and I can monitor that because it's still only given as much water as it's giving. So instead of leaving it on for 7 minutes or 8 minutes, I could leave it on for 12 or 15. It's not pouring out, 1,000 gallons of water. I can monitor how much it's giving and set the timer to the appropriate time based upon my water pressure and what I've been able to accomplish with this zone. So, and especially in the early morning, because I prefer to water in the early morning over, obviously you don't want to hit it in the heat of the day. I don't really like watering at night because there's the risk of fungus and whatnot, and it'll just sit there forever. And, oh yeah, I've got an issue. So this is where you go back through and monitor everything. The end cap was not screwed on all the way. I did manage to soak myself fairly well. Screwed it on, good, no water leak. So that actually affects the water pressure. And I'll show you here in a second. All of a sudden, nope, still no water pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna actually have to remove that. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is actually where I got soaked. So, yeah, I have no idea why it wasn't giving me water pressure at first, but when I unplugged it, there was full water pressure. I put it back on, and all the water pressure came back, so it ended up being fine. We're irrigated. It's looking good now. All right. Not bad. Not bad.